So I was talking with my cousin the other night, and we got into a discussion about Microsoft Studios versus Sony Studios and some various things about that. And I got to thinking, so whenever we think about the 8th generation of gaming, we think basically the meme of Xbox has no games. And for the most part, that was pretty much true. They had Halo, they had Gears of War, and they had Forza. And they pretty much just relied on those 3 franchises to carry them through that entire generation, plus a whole bunch of third-party multi-platform games. From my vantage point, the big reason for acquiring Bethesda and for acquiring ZeniMax and all that was to bolster their output and also to kind of give them something that's a little bit more competitive with Sony. Because when we think about Sony, we think about, games like The Last of Us, we think about games like Uncharted, think about games like Demon's Souls, Bloodborne, and we think about games like God of War, Spider-Man, things of that nature. And for the most part, those are all a certain style of third-person, heavy narrative-driven games. And then when we think of Xbox, for the most part, we think of Gears of War, we think of Halo, we think of shooters, we think of, online party-like games. I mean, games that you play with your friends, multiplayer games, if you will. From that perspective, Microsoft is probably like, man, if we could get a studio that could help us get some single-player, story-driven narrative games, then we would be much more competitive with Sony. And I think that's why they were looking at Bethesda and that kind of thing and going after them. Whenever I was thinking about this, I was like, okay, well, let's think, as far as Bethesda, we have id, we have Arcane. When we think about Bethesda, you think about Bethesda Game Studios. You think Elder Scrolls, you think Fallout. Going forward, you're going to be thinking Starfield. Now, the problem with that is Bethesda Game Studios is Bethesda Game Studios. And for the most part, under the ZeniMax umbrella, they've been functioning a certain way. I'm sure that they had to function under a certain budget as far as money in versus money out and that kind of thing. Now that they're acquired by Microsoft, technically, Microsoft doesn't have as many of those financial burdens. The market cap for Microsoft Corporation is like, what, $1.5 trillion? This company is enormously liquid. Just has a cash flow that you couldn't even imagine. So with that, I'm thinking, okay, so Bethesda has a problem. And the problem is people. They have a people problem. They don't have enough employees, essentially, to make the output of games that they need to output. We need to fast track some Elder Scrolls. We need to fast track some Fallout. And we need to get Starfield out. Now, the thing is we're going to have Starfields coming out next fall. And then I imagine Elder Scrolls would be like 4 years after that. And Fallout would be 3 years after that as well. And it's because that they're functioning under this core team at Bethesda Game Studios. It's like, what, 250, 300 people? What if Microsoft were to say, you know what? We want to have this output dramatically ramped up. So all we're going to do is we're going to hire on 2,500 extra people. So that gives us a total team of nearly 3,000 people. And we want the studio split up. So we want Bethesda Game Studios to run in 3 different sub-studios. One studio just strictly handles Elder Scrolls. Another studio strictly handles Fallout. And the third studio strictly handles Starfield. And at that, we'd be able to dramatically ramp up the productivity and the output as well. We might be looking at a Elder Scroll game every 3 years, a Fallout game every 3 years, and a Starfield game every 3 years, and be much like how Activision does with Call of Duty. The fact that they have 3 separate studios that handle the development in staggered cycles, the Elder Scrolls and all those games would be of higher caliber because they're single player games, so they can't fall on, multiplayer nonsense to carry it through. But I don't know. I don't know if that's something that anybody else at Microsoft or Bethesda has thought of, because I'm like, yeah, it's fine that, you guys are making these games. But the thing is you have this core group of people at the studio who basically majority of those focus on that one game that they're producing. And once that game is done, then majority of them might move on to the next one, while there's a smaller group that's working on performance and stability and DLC and things of that nature. But I'm just thinking, let's just look at it from a different perspective. We need a game like now. that can compete with what Sony is going to be putting out. We need a game like now that can compete with Horizon, things like God of War, things like Demon Souls, things like, well, I was going to say Deathloop, but Deathloop's going to be coming on Xbox next November anyway. But yeah, I don't know. I just thought it would be much more exciting if we bolster the studio with many more employees so we can step up productivity and start cranking out these games left and right. And instead of the typical Bethesda cycle, which is every game comes out every 5 years or 6 years, and the way they're really dragging their feet now, and we might be looking at 7 years between each game. I just wanted to put this out there, make this quick video, see what everybody else thought. And let me know what you think in the comments below. And thanks for watching, and peace out.